Hello and welcome to another fantastic episode of the Tap Often podcast. I'm your host, Alex, and with me, as always, is my sleeveless co-host, BJ. BJ, how are you?
Hey, what's happening, Alex? Ready to do this thing today?
Very excited. Now, before we get into it, BJ, you have some big news in your life. Why don't you tell us what that is?
Yeah, awesome, man. Thank you. I'm super stoked to now be a co-owner at Capital MMA in Herndon. So won't be around Lorton anymore. Definitely miss the family, the team there. We built some pretty awesome things over the last 7 years. Glad for this podcast because I still get to see your face and hear your voice.
Thank you.
It's just not me on top of you sweating everywhere.
I'm sure your wife appreciates that.
She does.
Now,
for sure.
Since you were
super excited.
Since you're the owner of this gym, are you going to make it mandatory to listen to this podcast?
Yeah, I was really hesitant at first to make such a hard line on things, but I think the time is now.
We need the numbers.
Right. We need the numbers desperately. I'm hoping that's going to really kind of push us over the top because we have these great non-sponsors.
Tell the audio listeners what you're holding up there, BJ.
Yeah, man. So right here, what I got is Once Upon a Coconut. Okay. Awesome coconut drink. Good buddy of mine. He's one of the partners of that company. He sends me this stuff, and it's awesome. So hey, if you're listening, Dean, go ahead and let's make this official. What do you say? And then the other one is, Fairlife protein, milk. I can't say enough good things about this. Also makes a nice ice cream if you put it in your Ninja Creamy.
Oh.
No complaints from this guy. And then obviously any coffee will do.
Yeah, I think people really need to understand that the reason why we started this podcast was to make money. We don't have a passion for this. We don't care about anything other than money. And so I need everyone to chip in to help us make more money.
For sure. I mean, we saw an opening in such an unsaturated market of podcasts that we felt like we could really monopolize and, stake our claim, as they say. The movie Far and Away. You're kind of like the Nicole Kidman and I'm the young Scrappa, Tom Cruise.
I've often been described as Nicole Kidman. That's crazy that you said that. And
it's the ginger beard.
And you're right, the market. How many podcasts are there of two dudes in Northern Virginia talking about the topics that we talk about? Probably not a lot. And, we filled that vacuum and we demand financial compensation for that.
There's one, and we've been on their podcast.
You're right.
Can't wait to have them back on. We should do maybe like a WWE tag team style death match with Fighters Drinking Coffee podcast. But it's not going to be on the mat, though. It'll be like an actual WWE wrestling type of thing. Or we could do a variety of games against them.
I want to make more money than them. That's really what I want to do. So,
well,
they should be paying. We were guests on their show. We did probably great numbers. I don't have their analytics, but we should have been paid for that.
I'm imagining they were probably through the roof. With people like us. Yeah. I think I'm looking forward to that collab. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well,
great supporters of our endeavors. And super excited about that possibility.
Well, congrats on the new gig at Herndon. I wish you all the success after ditching me and all that. I'm not bitter about it.
I'm not either.
Let's move on to our mailbag this week.
Mailbag, what do we got?
Nothing.
Tell us.
Absolutely nothing.
No Tom?
Tom seems to have abandoned us. He hasn't sent us email in a couple weeks. Maybe he didn't like my impression of him the other day, so I apologize, Tom, if you're out there. You're a youthful man.
Well, here you go. I see Tom all the time, being his trainer. I will be sure that he does a horrible, painful, vomit-inducing workout Tuesday.
Well, BJ, let's get to our favorite segment here called Tap In, Now Tap Out. I did something fun for the show. I mentioned my Limp Bizkit idea the 2 podcasts ago. Now, I don't have any music ability, and no one reached out to help us out. Because our listeners are deadbeats, okay? We asked for help, and they abandoned us, and they're not giving us money. So I did the...
If you keep calling them names, they're not gonna. Be nice.
I did the unethical thing, and I reached out to the only person who could give me a hand, and that's AI, okay? So we have an intro song for our segment here. I'm going to share the thing with you now so you can give her a listen.
Ready.
All right, here is the debut of our first, I don't know if we're going to keep this, but our first segment song.
Tap in now, tap out. Tap in now, tap out. Yeah! Come on! Tap in now, tap out. Tap in now, tap out. Let's go! What? Tap in now, tap.
All right.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, tap in, now tap out. The lyrics of that are riveting. First of all, Alex, you sure that's not your voice?
AI really captured my essence.
Jeez, they did. Is that your beard hairs that are in the logo?
I think that's rebar.
Rebar. Okay. It looks like the short hairs on your chin.
Yeah, I didn't ask it to make a graphic. It just did that on its own. My favorite part of the song is when it goes, "What?" I think they really captured
Dude,
metal.
the what? Yeah, the what is, and it crosses multiple genres. The what, right? It's almost like the Nehu of '90s R&B. Like it's quintessential to music as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
I dig it, Alex. Nice work. Nice work.
Yeah. See, listeners, that's what you get. I gotta go to AI because of you. Anyway, BJ, let's start with you. What is your tap in, tap out?
My tap in, tap out, Alex, is going to be music related because we're talking music. I love music. In support of the greatest hip hop duo or band of all time, Outkast. Tap in, tap out. Is Outkast the greatest hip hop rap band duo of all time?
I'm gonna have to tap out.
You gotta elaborate.
I was never that into Outkast in general. Now it could have been the era that I grew up in, but the first Outkast song I heard was Miss Jackson, and I found it to be annoying. And I find Andre 3000 to be kind of annoying. Now, I think Hey Yeah is a great song. I like that song. But overall, I've never really been into Outkast. But now the question is, do I think there's a better rap band than Outkast? I guess...
Don't take the easy way out and be like Wu-Tang.
No, I was never into Wu-Tang either.
What is wrong with you? Jesus.
I did grow up listening to NWA, so I guess I would say them. I didn't really like Public Enemy all that much.
Oh my God, dude.
But yeah.
Just keep digging the hole.
I'm just not into rap groups, okay? I mean, there's not a lot of them, is there?
My whole shelf just fell out of astonishment.
And I was never really into anyone in G Unit besides 50 Cent.
Gun It? Yeah.
So
man, this is.
Oh, you know
is,
what?
This is
no, hold on a sec. The best rap group of all time is the Hot Boys. All right, give me the Hot Boys.
Wow.
Juvenile, Lil Wayne. Yeah, it's the Hot Boys. The Hot Boys. The Hot Boys. Yeah, give me Hot Boys.
Yeah, we got.
Or the Big Timers.
I have nothing.
Manny Fresh and Birdman. Yeah, I'll take those.
I got nothing. Yeah.
Well, why don't you talk to us about why you like Outkast so much?
I can't even have this conversation with you anymore. You literally shot down arguably the greatest groups or duos of all time, and said they weren't very good.
I didn't say that. I just said I didn't like
look,
them that much. That's this difference.
I'll give you.
I'm not. Hold on a second. Let me just say something. I understand Outkast is important and that a lot of people like them. I'm not saying they're bad. I just am not into it. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. You're not into showering regularly either.
That's
so
false.
whatever.
I shower every day.
So, like Miss Jackson, I'll agree. Not their best song at all.
Okay.
Like if that's I could see why if that's the first one you ever heard, it could have like a negative or just like a not I want to keep listening to feel,
Yeah.
right? Because when I grew up was, Southern Playalistic Cadillac Funky Music, right? So like that was when that dropped, that was a game changer. And to see their evolution over time, all the way to Andre's Flute album. Talk about evolution. Yeah, dude, the most brilliant rap hip hop duo band of all time. Brilliant. And yeah, I mean, I got nothing. I can't. I just can't.
Well, it sounds
I'm
like you can't
hurting
defend your
right
point
now.
at all. You really haven't said anything about why Outkast is good. You just said they had a flute album, which really doesn't sell me on them being a good rap group. So if you're so passionate
Yeah,
about them, tell me more. What are some good songs? If someone was
emotional.
trying to get into Outkast, what's 3 songs they should listen to?
Well, I think if you're gonna, it depends who the person is because that's the
You
beauty
can't
of
answer this
Outkast.
question, bro. You're dodging everything.
It depends. It depends. Like I grew up, I loved Hootie Hoo, right? So like not a lot of people know that song, but I love that song. So like it kind of depends where you are in your life and what you like. Because I think there's something for everybody with Outkast.
No, you should be able to just
Like
give
my
3
wife.
songs. Just give 3 songs.
My wife loves like no. 3
Just
songs?
give 3 songs.
3 songs. Rosa Parks, Hootie Hoo, Bombs Over Baghdad.
There you go. There. See, that wasn't so
So-
hard.
Little bit of everything there. Little bit of everything.
Okay.
And the pan flute.
Is it a pan flute or is it a regular flute?
It's a flute. It's just a
Is he
flute.
playing the flute?
Yeah. He is. He is. You know, my dad, I played football, right? And my dad, I wanted to play an instrument. So I wanted to learn the saxophone. This is elementary school. My dad was like, "Oh yeah, that's cool, but you play football." I'm like, "Yeah, I know." So I want to, play the saxophone, go and get the instrument. They're out of saxophones. Come home with a flute. I played the flute for a week. My dad was not having me play the flute.
No.
Wasn't. I have no issue with that. My dad had an issue with that. And yeah, so my flutist
Flautist.
experience was only
You don't even
one
know what it's called.
flautist. I don't even know what it's called. Because I like hip hop, not flauts.
All right. Well, we should compare the Andre Flout album with Lil Wayne's guitar album and Steven Seagal's reggae album. I think that would be a good.
No. Does that exist?
Oh, dude, it's very good. It's very good.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I can't, I can't wait to listen to that.
Yeah.
Can't wait. Wow. All right. What you got for me,
All right.
Skippy?
Your tap in, tap out is why is Outkast the worst group? Never mind. Just kidding. Just kidding. Actual question.
Take a hike, kid.
Or not question, but statement is UFC BJJ is good for jiu-jitsu.
I think it's good because it has the backing of the UFC, but I think it is not good overall for jiu-jitsu. There's a lot of great grapplers in there, but the whole thing of like them just tying them down into that and they can't compete at like ADCCs or other tournaments, I think that's bad. And I also think the UFC has shown that they do MMA really well, like better than anybody else in terms of the global machine that it is. But all the other stuff that they tend to get their hands on, whether it's stupid slap fighting or
Stupid.
Yeah, the power
Elite.
slap. Yeah,
Elite slapping.
sure. Elite slapping. Um, their attempt at the boxing. I think all of it. It's like anything, right? Like if you start spreading yourself out so thin, what do you actually do really well? For better or for worse, right? Like McDonald's didn't introduce chicken nuggets for a long time. They specialized in making burgers, fries, and a milkshake. And I think when you start spreading yourself out too much as a business, um, that's when the product gets diluted and it's not their focus, right? Like it's not like fighting is their focus. So I just don't see it happening.
Have you
I
watched
don't
many
I
of
don't
the
see
events?
jiu-jitsu becoming an Olympic sport. Yeah, I've seen them for
What are your
sure.
thoughts on
I also
the
think there's not
product, like the shows?
um it's okay. It's fine. I don't think anybody who is interested in I think people who like jujitsu will watch it, but I don't think it's really a priority for a lot of people to watch it. And I think those who are not into jujitsu, this is not something that they're going to tune into and be like, "Hey, I want to watch this thing." I don't think I don't think it's made enough mainstream attention for those people who are like on the fringe of wanting to see it. I don't think it's compelling enough to want to stay involved in it.
Well,
I just don't.
let me play devil's advocate for a second here. Okay.
Please, you do that well.
I think first of all, all the events are free, which is great. On YouTube. It's not locked behind a paywall like ADCC is with Flow Grappling. I think that's a big issue with ADCC. Is it's not most people can't watch it because first of all they probably don't know
For
how.
sure.
Second of all, Flow Grappling has a lot of issues and all of it's locked up with that. Also, they do advertise UFC BJJ on their UFC cards, which I think that's probably the biggest promotion a jiu-jitsu event probably is going to get. So I think it is good at getting eyes to people, and I think it is consumer friendly right now to have it free on YouTube. Now, I understand UFC has a ton of issues. I'm not here to defend the UFC a lot, but I do understand why they don't want their competitors to compete in ADCC because I assume that the people with UFC BJJ are being paid to compete there, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a contract.
Yeah.
And that's good for the athletes because there's not a lot of opportunities for you to get paid to compete in jiu-jitsu. Especially as steadily as these UFC BJJ events have been. Whereas ADCC is once every 2 years or 4 years or something like that. So
Right.
I understand why they would not want their athletes to compete in a different organization where they're very likely to get injured given the nature of jiu-jitsu. So I
sure.
understand it. And also I think, I know Craig Jones has been outspoken against ADCC and UFC BJJ, and he was outspoken about that non-compete clause. But, I mean, I don't really know what else they were expected to do. I mean, I know, like, in a perfect world, they could compete anywhere, but if they're going to be under contract and being paid by the UFC, it makes perfect sense not to have them compete.
I think those are great points. I think the other part of this too is when marketing it to the UFC crowd, right? Like those people are going to be more interested in maybe learning more about jiu-jitsu. I would be curious how many new fans are coming on board to UFC that don't already know about jiu-jitsu. And we also know when the attention goes up in jiu-jitsu, people want to try it and all that stuff, but to actually stick in jiu-jitsu over time is hard, right? Like when you look at the attrition rate of a white belt to a blue belt to purple, and so on and so forth, those numbers drop significantly, right? People just don't stick with it. So I would be interested to see from a data perspective, how many of those people were actually getting involved in jiu-jitsu and how many new fans are they getting from the UFC to be interested in jiu-jitsu? Because the truth is too, watching people do leg entanglements is boring. And if you want to market something, it can't be boring, right? Like that's what complaints are about the NFL at this time. Games are too long. That was a complaint about Major League Baseball. The games were too long. People don't have attention spans for sitting there and watching something unravel for a minute. Like the average attention span literally is like 3 to 5 seconds at this point, when 20 years ago it was 7 to 13 seconds. So with people's attention spans getting smaller, you better make sure your product is something that's going to keep people engaged. And leg entanglements, butt scooting, it's just not as engaging for somebody to sit there and want to watch. Like, and it's not a criticism of that being a valid skill, right? It's just not, because people don't want to watch someone try to move. Like, no one wants to watch chess.
Mm-hmm.
Like, chess does not have high viewership. It needs to be explosive. It needs to be engaging.
Yeah, no one wants
There needs
those
to be, and they need to make.
Gordon Ryan 60-minute
No, go ahead.
matches.
No, but if there is, they want to see change in that, right? Like, there needs to be mix up. That's why UFC people like it, and that's why people who watch UFC boo when there's a clinch up against a cage. It doesn't quench the thirst of engagement, and I think that's where they're going to struggle with the most.
Yeah, the events I spent, like, the most recent UFC BJJ they had was pretty boring, and yeah, but that's kind of a larger issue with jiu-jitsu. The stalling, and the one guy's going to go for leg locks, the other guy's going to spend the entire match defending leg locks and trying to get around the guard, and the guy's just going to invert, and it's just it resets. Yeah, not interesting to watch. But I don't think that's a problem with UFC BJJ though.
No, it's a problem with jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
But they also have a unique opportunity to make the rules, and that's what like makes ADCC so much fun though too. Like, at least it used to be like it promoted aggression, right? Like, I remember whenever I had a chance to compete at ADCCs, we ended up under a table at some point.
Well, that's
And still
also a
go,
problem with those.
right?
There's not a lot of out of
For
bounds
sure.
space at those ADCCs.
For sure, but like that's also like that's part of the gimmick, right? Like, it's you want to see what's going to happen. How many like ADCC, and I'm not saying they're the best. I'm just saying like the rules were set up to promote engagement, right? So I think that's important if you're gonna try to, make jiu-jitsu an Olympic sport one day, right? Or whatever they're trying to do and get all the backing to increase its popularity of viewership, you got to make it engaging more than anything else.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's enough time spent on that topic.
Yeah, let's move on. I'm bored with this one.
Well, I feel like we could talk even longer about it, but maybe another time. Today's episode,
But no one wants to hear it.
is going to be our very first Q&A. That stands for questions and answers, if you didn't know, BJ.
Thanks.
Was it last week you asked people to submit questions for us?
Alex, it was 2 days ago. It wasn't even. I mean, yes, technically last week, but it was only 2 days.
I just woke up from a coma. So let's get into it. Our first question, BJ, is about the viral trap. And when we're developing our game plan for being on the mats, should we focus on fundamentals, classic jiu-jitsu, or is there value in riding the wave of viral moves? I think maybe the most famous one of these in recent memory would be that buggy choke. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, I want to hear your thoughts on that one.
Oh.
Because you are someone who likes the viral moveset.
I have a lot of trouble with fundamental jiu-jitsu, sometimes given my size and what a lot of moves that I see that are taught, sometimes they will work on someone your own size, but there aren't a lot of people my size. So I have had to get a bit creative in how I approach jiu-jitsu. I prefer experimenting. I think one of the things I like the most about jiu-jitsu is how open it is, and there's not a lot of rigid rules to follow and how you move on the mat and things you can do. So I like experimenting, seeing what works, and sometimes you catch people off guard, and that's always fun. And then sometimes you realize why it's only on Instagram and you've never seen it in an actual competition. But I think there is value to viral moves, but within the context of classic jiu-jitsu, like how can I incorporate this into what I know is tried and true in jiu-jitsu? How does it all fit into it? And I think there's a big trap that you can find yourself in where you just focus on these viral things and maybe it works for a month, but people are going to catch on. And then what do you have after that?
Mhm. Right. Right. No, I think that's a great point. I find it interesting though too, because the first thing you said was, given your size, we're the same size.
But you were much stronger
Um,
than me, right?
well, yeah, but we're the same size though.
But but but,
Yeah,
but
I'm
when I'm
definitely
saying size, it's a
Alex. No,
height.
there's that's not no,
It's a strength
it's
thing.
not right question mark. I'm clearly stronger than
Yeah,
you. Like let's be abundantly clear about that.
yeah.
But like, but it's interesting, right? Because we are like the same size. Like you're what 5'8",
9
5 sorry,
average
and I'm
height for the
5'6",
world. I'll have you
5'7",
know.
right? I'm slightly less than average in height. Um, so we're we're right there with each other. And what did you weigh this morning?
I don't know. I didn't weigh myself this morning. Probably
So what do you
3 bills.
3 bills? Yeah, I'm like 299. So it's interesting because I agree with you. I think like if you're developing, there's certain basic fundamental things that you have to have in jujitsu, which are foundational, right? Like understanding frames, understanding distance management, understanding the different positions, uh, where to put your hands in frames, where not to, what long frames look like short frames look like all that stuff, how to pass guard, like those marks of demarcation, like all that stuff's like super important. Um, but I think it's like I don't turn my head from the viral stuff either. Like it's interesting. And I think if you're playing the long game in anything, if you find something that you find interesting, learn about it. Like there's no shame in that, right? Like develop your game, your skill, um, get good at the things that you really like to do and figure out how they chain together. But there's nothing wrong with like trying to learn something else. I mean, think about if you think it from a food perspective, man. If all you ever ate was plain chicken and that's all you ever ate, what a boring life that would be, right? It makes it interesting when, you blend up that chicken with glass of orange juice for your post-workout nutrition.
You've mentioned chicken a
You're just
lot this
mixing it
episode. Are
up.
you hungry?
I am starving. I just got done lifting.
Uh,
Um, but yeah, I don't, there's nothing wrong with
yeah,
that. But at the same time, like, don't make chaos your master, right? Like, don't just get so far into trying a bunch of stuff that you never actually develop like a cogent plan, right? Or a cogent system for your skill set.
yeah, and I think it's also good to maybe be aware of viral stuff because the meta on the map evolves, and so you don't want to get behind on what's happening, right? Like with the buggy choke, which you did see in competition. You need to
Yeah.
be aware of it so you can feel what it's like for someone to attempt it, and then to figure out how do I counter it.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
also, I think it's what I like looking up the viral stuff because I can bring it onto the mat. I can work it out with people and we can see different things. And I think what's great is when you have a variety of people with different skills at the gym and it makes everyone better. So, you may have someone who's really good at worm guard or something like that. I think that's, while it's annoying, it's an asset to have because now you're not going to get shocked by that in competition. You can work on defenses
Right.
and maybe it sparks something in your head too. Like, oh man, this guy did this to me. Maybe I can use that for a different entry or I can use it to supplement my own game. So I think it's super healthy to do and really breaks up the monotony of jiu-jitsu. Instead of doing the same mount escapes, maybe you see something kind of goofy, just makes it more interesting, which I think
Yeah, for sure.
BJ leads us into our second question here, about the student mindset. How do you stay a student of the game for your martial arts when you're outside of the gym?
Yeah, no, great question. It does kind of nice segue. It to me, it's the same. It's the same answer, right? Like it's about balance. It's about like trying to see things from different angles. Eliciting other people's feedback about what they see. So if we're both looking at guard passing, right? Let's analyze that together. Let's talk through that. That requires you to have humility and see your mistakes, what you do, right? Which I know you're not a fan of humility.
What's that?
but exactly. But that's to me, like that's the key to being just a good student in anything is being curious. You know, the great Ted Lasso, right? Be curious, not judgmental, right?
It's not a
So
real
it's
guy.
really quite that simple. Yeah, yeah. So like that to me is what it really comes down to is to be a student is to be curious. And even if you disagree with whatever it is that you're learning about, it's okay, right? It helps strengthen your convictions. It helps you understand your own um, feelings about something and why you and how you really understand it. Yeah, being a great learner to me is just that.
Well, so
Be curious.
the question here is talking about when you're outside of the gym. So like when you aren't in class, or if you're going to be out for a few months with an injury, which is something we both know about.
Mhm.
Um,
Oh yeah.
what do you do to, I guess, study or stay up to date with jujitsu when you're not actually on the mats?
Man, I'm looking at those viral things on social media.
Hmm.
No, but that is definitely part of the puzzle, right? Like I think it's also important to stay connected to the gym. You know, if we're looking at just like injury, for example, staying connected into the gym, whether that's help coach a class, like if you're able to get to the class that you're going to anyway, but you're not able to participate, but you can be a hand in helping on the mats, like whatever you need to do within your time frame that keeps you connected, I think is what matters. And that can look different for everybody, right? It can be a bunch of different things. It can be watching video. It can be talking, keeping communications with your teammates. It can be going in and helping coach. It really comes down to like what can you do with your own schedule that keeps you involved. But I also think it's important that you stay connected with the gym
Hmm.
that you're training at. If we're just looking from like an injury perspective, because those relationships matter. Like that's what kept you going there in the first place. It wasn't just the jujitsu. Um, so those connections are important. What do you think? Because you've had a lot of time, like unfortunately, with a lot of injuries. Um, you know, you got your white belt 48 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, so what helps you stay connected?
You know, I think instructionals have some value, but when you're injured, it's hard because you can watch it, but then you can't practice it. But I think at the very least, the instructionals can get your mind thinking, and maybe you can write it down. And when you are back on the mats, you can try it out. And I also like watching matches on YouTube and just making notes about, oh, that was cool, or maybe
Yeah,
trying to understand what they're doing, because guard like with guard passings can be very complicated, but there are like very basic things that are happening, but they're just happening very fast and rapid and like in quick succession. So being able to like break that down, like if you see someone do a really slick guard pass, pausing it, maybe slowing down the video and seeing how their hands are moving, how they're addressing certain stuff, and how their body's moving can be helpful. But it is
yeah.
outside of the gym. It's hard to stay with it because you can't do it, and I'm the type of person that needs to do it in order for it to stick.
Yeah.
So it
It's interesting too, because I've seen you and kind of handle this in two different ways. Because I mean, we've been training together, I don't know, like what, 6, 7 years.
mhm.
Um, and I've seen like different iterations of you, right? Like when you got hurt, like you were ghost, like for a few months, like you weren't
It
around.
hurt.
But then I've also
Honestly,
seen
it
you,
hurt to be there and not be able to do it.
yeah. But then I've seen you be there, like, and that was after that. So that I'd be curious, like, what your shift was in that, because when you first got hurt, like when we were competing and you had that knee injury, you went ghost. Then when you came back, you got hurt again, but you weren't quite like you were slowly not ghosting as much. And then the last time you were hurt, you were like still present, like you were still present in the gym more often, but also I think in communication though too.
Yeah, I think that's part of it was probably just my relationship with people at the gym being
Yeah.
stronger later on, right? So, but yeah, The first time, I think I had spent so much energy prepping for that competition, and then for me to tear my LCL 3 minutes into my very first match, I wouldn't say the world crashed around me, but a smaller version of that happened, and I think I just needed
Yeah.
to not be around it for a while.
Yeah.
And I was also
That's
very
fair.
conservative with my rehab that first time. But once I kind of understood how rehab works, I was able to kind of know what my limits were and how to safely do it.
Yeah.
And I think probably with the other injuries, you keep getting injured, the itch to come back gets stronger and stronger. So I wanted to be back more for those.
Yeah. That's good. Yep, for sure.
Alrighty, next question. We're talking grip strength, BJ. How vital is grip strength?
It's everything. It is absolutely everything. Um, you're outside of your feet, you know, it's all about your hands. So I think people don't focus enough on it. Um, it doesn't have to be anything complicated. There's a lot of different ways to develop your grip strength, grabbing blobs, pinching plates, dead hangs. That's one of my favorite ways. And anybody who's ever trained with me, uh, I love dead hanging, and it's just good for your back anyway. Let loose your shoulders, your lats, but also that ability to endure and develop that grip strength, that especially like that crushing grip. Um, One of my favorite things to do is just once a week, uh, having a day where at the end of the workout we're focusing on grip, and one of the things we'll do is we'll take 5 minutes, and your objective is to hang as long as you can in that 5 minutes. When you can't hang anymore, you let go, have something to step down to so you just don't drop to the
Got to
floor.
drop. They got to learn.
And then, yep, gotta drop, blow those knees out. Um, Take a couple breaths and get right back up there and see how long you can continue to do that to failure, in a 5 minute period. We've done it as far as 10 minutes before too. Um, so it sucks, but I like doing that training like once a week. And then another day during the week, doing plate pinches where you'll pinch together, two, three, whatever you can handle, like 10-pound plates, and you stand there just long arms pinching the plate as long as you can, and you hold it as long as you can, and doing 3 sets of a minute is the same kind of concept. When you can't hold it anymore, you just put it down, take a breath, reset, stand back up with the plates. But I think those are like really focusing on that crushing and that pinching grip, are super important. But that's also like one of those things with like longevity. There's a correlation with your grip strength and mortality. I mean, you just can't go wrong. Like ultimately, trying to pick up a spoon, you know, trying to pick up a bowl, a cup, hold a mug. Like when that grip strength goes, you're going, and that's important to keep that developed for sure.
One thing judo athletes
Love.
do that I think is cool is they incorporate the gi into their pull-ups. So they'll like set up the gi on the pull-up bar or hang it, and then they'll grab the lapel and do pull-ups using the grip that they would use in competition.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's okay. Like it's anything, it's better than nothing. No, like, and I don't mean to be like trite about that, but like, I think we also get too technical
That's just
with
setting
this.
up a
Like,
gi, bro. It's not that complicated.
yeah, but it's also like you don't always pinch a gi, right? Like you want to develop the whole hand, right? Like you don't like, and I think that's the important part is like working out the grip in a lot of different ways, right? So like if you're someone who's like, I'm just going to do that all the time, well, you already do that all the time in judo,
Hmm.
right? So you're just doing the same grip versus developing like a whole grip, right? Like balance to that whole
Yeah.
process. And that's like the key,
You
right?
want to
If
crush a
you're,
melon in your hand.
yes, I want to be able to crush a melon in my hand, but I also want to be able to have a close grip on a narrow
Like my
object.
neck.
Um, like your neck is so narrow. Uh, but like that's like I think that's also where people get like super complicated about training. It doesn't have to be that complicated. Like we spend a lot of time in rotation in combat sports. We need to be doing stuff where we're doing anti-rotation, because we're already rotating a lot. Like if you're constantly pushing, you need to be doing more pulling to create balance. Like it's simple things like that, but it's about developing the whole body, the whole system, the whole, continuum of strength and power,
All right.
the
Well,
force velocity curve.
Piggy, backing off of that, we had a few questions that kind of touched upon a similar topic. How do certain physical activities or movements translate across different sports, including jujitsu? Let's kind of narrow it down to that.
Yes. So I don't know, in every way, right? Like if you're a better athlete, you're going to be better able to get better at jujitsu. Um, Given that you don't let your athleticism be the thing that inhibits you from developing skill. So whatever attributes or qualities you bring to the mat, like know those can be superpowers, but at the same time, those should not be the thing that you fully rely on when you're putting at risk developing the skill of jujitsu. So I think if you have we talked about before, like basketball players are tremendous athletes. Like we'll say a linebacker in football or a running back. You imagine how many great jujitsu players there are that are in the NFL. They just have never done jujitsu, right? So all those can be superpowers, but never at the cost of developing a skill, for sure. What do you think about that? I mean, you have a pretty interesting background too. Like you played sports, but you're also a good break dancer, right? Like
Well, yeah.
those.
Eddie Bravo said breakdancers make great jujitsu athletes, and if you look at 10th Planet and their style with the inversions and the flexibility,
Mhm.
it makes a lot of sense. But I don't know. It's because they talk about being in shape and then being in wrestling shape, and like how physically
Mhm.
taxing like wrestling is. I think there's a similar thing with jujitsu and like being fit for jujitsu versus fit for a different sport. And I do think, given the nature of like how a match is, how intense it can be, like there's a lot of,
Mhm.
and then like the going from standing to being on the ground, and if you're on top or you're on bottom, there's like so many different parts of it. I do think jujitsu offers like a very unique experience for your body, and I don't really, maybe I don't have enough experience with other sports. I'm not quite sure how much maybe playing baseball and the skills you have from that would translate into jujitsu. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. I think even if you looked at baseball, it's even more the different in terms of the position that you play, right? Like when you think about someone who's a pitcher versus a shortstop, right? Like a shortstop ideally would be a great at passing guard
Hmm.
because they have such tremendous lateral movement, right? Um, your center fielder is going to be exceptionally fast, right? So that's an asset. But I think, like you said, was the biggest linchpin, man, is conditioning, right? Like, because what is it? Fatigue makes cowards of us all, right? And you've got to be in shape. And we've all felt that. Like the first day you go into jujitsu or wrestling, compared to the condition that you're in by the end of that season or the end of that year, like you're not even the same person,
Hmm.
and it's really comes down to like conditioning, because your ability to repeat effort over and over and over and over again is only going to be limited ultimately by the conditioning that you have.
Hmm.
Because we've seen plenty of people who are not strong, who are not that powerful, but they can continue to repeat that effort again and again and again. Now, if you have someone who can do that and they're strong and powerful, that's when things get
Hmm.
crazy, and that's when you see elite, you know,
Yeah.
especially around nogi.
And it's also a special type of conditioning because it's not simply like, okay, I'm gonna go on the stationary bike and knock out an hour. I mean, in jiu-jitsu, there's usually someone on top of you while you're trying to do all of this these high exertions. And I think it's kind of hard to even train for that outside of jiu-jitsu. Like, how do I simulate
Yeah.
having a person on my back trying to choke me while I'm hand fighting and trying to rotate and not pass out?
No, for sure. And I think that's what makes the strength conditioning piece like super interesting. And um, there, because when we look at conditioning, there's the different types, right? Like you need to have a strong baseline of general physical preparedness or general aerobic conditioning. And from there, like how that all layers on top of each other. That's actually a podcast that want us to dig into a little bit more. Is like, how do you set up a program for a jiu-jitsu or MMA or a Muay Thai fighter? Like, what does that actually look like? Because the mat you're getting, or the mat work that you're getting in jiu-jitsu from a conditioning perspective, that's just one component of conditioning, right? Like you still should be doing some general conditioning outside of there. It should not be high intense like conditioning. Like you're not out off the mat. Save that for the mat. Off the mat, more general, right? And yeah, that's definitely something we're gonna dive more into on another podcast, because that's a whole nother way to develop and build your system. Because the truth is, right? Like if you're already doing high intensity training on the mat because the pace is so high and all those things, you need to be doing the things that are opposite of that off the mat, right? So what does that look like? And yeah, great topic for later, for sure. We could be talking about this all day.
Oh, how exciting. Well, let's go to our last question here. We're going to kind of combine two of them here. We're going to talk about the competition mindset, what your how should your mental approach differ between a standard practice session and a high stakes competition? And then we're going to add on top of that, how do we handle that adrenaline dump that happens to a lot of us when we are competing?
Yeah. Man, those are, again, two super complicated questions. So the first part, we'll talk about like the adrenaline dumping. That's going to come back to like what your preparation looks like going into said competition. Are you providing yourself those opportunities to feel that high pressure situation in training? Because that all is basically deposits in the bank that you're making, that whenever you do come across those stressful situations, if you have experience on how to respond to those previously, how to use tools in response to that feeling, because it's physiological and it's emotional, it's all those things, mental, like everything, right? So what are the tools that you use whenever that is happening? So a lot of different like methods people have, like there's everything from box breathing, where you do 4 seconds of an inhale, 4-second hold, 4-second exhale, 4-second hold your breath, like hold, don't breathe, and then repeat that cycle. That helps downregulate your system. I think for some people too, like they need to get out there and have a really like sweaty, hard warm up, where it doesn't involve like a lot of grappling. And then some people like to have a really hard warm up with another person grappling, just try to shake those things out. And what it comes down to is what works best for you. And you're not going to know what works best for you unless you've tried those things. And the time to try that is during training camp, is during practices, putting yourself in those situations to figure out how you're going to process that and what tools you can use to actually address that from happening.
Yeah, I think also like your mindset going into it. If you're competing at a local tournament, I think maybe telling yourself this isn't a big deal, it doesn't really matter, it can help relax you. You're not at ADCC, you're not competing at the top of the level. For a lot of us, this is a hobby. It's something we're doing for fun, and we're doing a tournament because we want to see how we stack up with other people at our skill level. And it shouldn't, on paper, it shouldn't be a scary thing. It should be something fun. It should be something you look forward to, framing it in your mind as something fun rather than something scary, I think can go a long way as well. You know, I competed one time and my knee blew up. So I'm competing next Sunday. It can't get any worse than what has happened at that point, right? You know, if I make it through the entire match, or even if I get tapped out, it's going to be better than what happened last time, right? So I think it's really important for you to frame it that way. And also, when you're on the mat and you're facing your competitor, understanding they're probably feeling the same thing, and you know, no one's gonna judge you for how you did, really, because you know we're all here for fun, and it doesn't matter at the grand scheme of things, really. You know.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's, to me too, like the mindset that you take. I've been fortunate enough to compete a lot, like a good amount with jujitsu, but a lot in other sports, like strength sports and whatnot. Um, I have found what works best for me is when I am indifferent, where I treat winning and losing just the same. If I get too caught up in that I need to the need to win, and I let that become the thing that consumes me, I don't do as well. When I am afraid and that consumes me, I don't do as well. But when I can see both the same, where it is what it is, I'm going to go out there and do my best. That is where I typically have always done my best, in whatever the competition was. And I've thought about this a lot since I've been playing sports since I was 5, but I've been competing, like really competing since I was like 13 in more higher level competitions, whether it was like a state level meet or regional, like, or a national level meet or whatnot, or even in international competitions. When I treat both imposters, you know, this is the poem If says, right? When I treat both imposters just the same, that's when I do my best. But to get there though, that is like the hard part, right? Like, how do you do that? So that comes back to your process, right? Like, what is your process as you are preparing for a competition? Because confidence is not an emotion. Confidence is something that you develop, and that comes from doing things to build that confidence. So that can be a wide range of things. One tool that I always found to be most successful for me was writing down wins for the day. So I find whenever I'm kind of finding, whether it's on the mat or just kind of in life, when I'm finding that I am struggling and starting to feel down about whatever thing is, I'll write down what are 10 wins for that day. And I remember the first time that I did this, I was helping my father-in-law and mother-in-law when he had cancer and he was in hospice, and it was just my mother-in-law and I delivering the hospice for about 6 weeks. And I remember working with my therapist and through this whole process, and she suggested this idea. And I sat down that night and I could not think of anything. And I was away from my wife and daughter because I was living with them. And I could not think at all about a win. I sat there and looked at a piece of paper with a pen for about an hour. And I got up and I walked away. I came back and I just remember taking I took this big breath and I wrote down, I breathed. And that was my first thing I ever wrote down. I still have that notebook. That was the first thing I wrote down as a win for the day, because I was in such a place of like, I don't know what to do. I couldn't see anything positive. And then after that, you know, crying and all those things. But then after that, I was able to write things down, and it turned into like, I talked to Matt, I talked to such and such. I laughed at a joke, you know, whatever it was, whatever I could find. I went for a long walk today, you know, whatever it was. So I always found that when I could start to just find, when I'm like kind of tipping the scales, if I'm finding myself getting too negative, go back and just put down what are the things that are positive, and it kind of starts bringing that balance back. But also at the same time, when you're too high and you're just like, you know, over the top confident, that also means that you're susceptible to blind spots. So then being acknowledging that and kind of bring yourself back down to neutral for lack of better words. So, but all that comes down to how are you preparing, right? Are you doing the things that you can control? Because the truth is, right? Like everybody talks about one more thing, game plans. This is my game plan whenever I go in and do this thing. Well, this is jiu-jitsu is a fight. Like it's not punching and kicking, but it's a fight. It changes. I think it's important to know what's the thing you're looking for initially, but then having enough training and preparation for when it all goes wrong. Right? And that's the important part because it inevitably is going to go wrong. Like at the last Worlds, I had a great takedown, picked the dude up, slammed him on the ground, and then I was in his guard after they reset us because we were off the mat. They reset us into his guard, and that sucked because I lost like all the momentum that I had. And my game plan changed at that point. And it was, by the time I kind of snapped out of it, it was just a little bit too late. And so how do you process that, right? Like, and that comes back to, I didn't prepare for that. I didn't prepare for when my game plan goes completely wrong, for a reset, you know?
I think it's also important to acknowledge that there is no, you're never going to be 100% prepared. You know, you don't have infinite time.
Yep.
And
right.
so you shouldn't always be worried if you're going to compete, like, well, I'm not ready to compete. Well, when would you be ready? You know?
Right.
Just go do it. See how it goes, you
Yeah.
know? Maybe you get tapped out in the first 5 seconds. Okay. You did it.
Yeah,
And the more you do it, the less scary it's going to be. And like you said,
for sure.
competing with indifference or telling yourself, I'm just here to compete. I don't care.
Right.
The medal you get is $5. Who cares? I'm just here to compete, see how I stack up. And I think when you talked about being too concerned with winning, there are people in the world who are obsessed with winning, and they are the greats. Tom Brady, Michael Jordan, two men obsessed with winning. They also destroy their lives in doing so. And a lot of the time seemed to be extremely unhappy until they won. So it's not healthy to think that way for most people. They are a rare breed.
Yep. Yeah, because to be great, you have to be obsessive.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's also like you look at the evolution of my Kobe Bryant. Like I absolutely love Kobe Bryant. And you look at the evolution of him as a person and where he kind of ended up later in his career, both like philosophically, right? Because he went from someone who is, he's incredibly driven, you know, all those things, right? Like we all know the Kobe stories, but he was also very indifferent about winning and losing as he got older because he realized it was the process that mattered. It wasn't the win or the loss. Like like the one story where they talk about how, I think it was his rookie year, he shot in the playoffs 4 air balls in a row. All of them were to help the team go on to victory, to move on. 4 air balls in a row. Came home and shot all day at the high school gym. Got home at like 3 o'clock in the morning from the flight. Went right to the gym and shot and shot and shot. Yeah, you have to be obsessive. But he wasn't beating himself up in terms of like focusing on why, like the loss, like the emotion of losing. But he focused on, I need to get better at my shot. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to be wed to the process of shooting that shot.
Right.
Right. And that's the key. It's the process. It really is the process that matters.
All right. Great answers, BJ. I think that's going to do it. This is our longest podcast yet.
No kidding.
About
What do we hit? 42 minutes?
Oh, we're at an hour, over an hour right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
Just scratching the surface.
ooh, baby. Well, if we get some listeners, maybe we can expand more on these topics. But that's going to do it for us here at the Tap Often podcast. My name is Alex. Your name is...
It doesn't
Who
matter.
cares? We'll see you next time.